Yantif and all your travels, emotional, physical, spiritual, wherever you went. Welcome back. As we step into winter here, entering from a space of interior design, it's really a great space to really see where you want to go in life by the perspective that you've had with your time away or time away from your schedule, really. Because for a lot of us, when we're in the rat race or the routine, it's somewhere we're really, really comfortable, but not always are we aware of the things that need improvement or the things that might need a change to shift to help us build and improve the lifestyle and get to the goals that we really set for ourselves. So with all of this, all these changes, everything that's happening in the world, a lot of people reached out. I'm hoping everybody is okay and taking care of themselves. But as we move into that experience in itself, there is this sense of fear. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of the fear of the unknown that shows up into that space. And it can be scary. Just noticing where you feel it in your life and where it impacts you the most. I found this from my practice as well as for some people that shared that because they've been doing this practice of spending that time to really organize their interior, right? Because at the end of the day, the nefesh, if the nefesh is strong, then, which is the spirit, if our spirit is strong, then we don't break as easily. If we aren't feeling well in certain areas, or there are areas in our life that we struggle, we can usually get through it if we have a strong spirit. Where we begin to break down in all areas is when the spirit itself is not strong. And when the world is in a challenging space, or there are these trials and tribulations and acts of terror, the terror really is felt on a moment basis within ourselves. So it's noticing if and how that terror gets in and where it gets in. So in general, we can't control what goes on outside of us. We can pray and hope and do the best we can to make a difference and support if we can. But when we talk about ourselves, we have to figure out what it is exactly that can make a difference in the world that we personally live in, so that terror doesn't get in, right? So when we talk about that in itself, it's more of this like, where do we create the boundaries for that not to enter the interior of our own experience? So back to some of the students that shared that by doing this practice, they've really been able to feel that they've had a stronger nefesh as they move through this, stronger spirit. And that doesn't mean that you're not feeling things. It means it doesn't shatter you the way, or destroy you the way it would someone else that isn't in touch with their nefesh. So when we think of the body, when we think of our own self, there is this sense of organization. And if we think of it as as interior design, as a home, right? Your body is your first home. In the home itself, there's only space for a certain amount of things. Like the second you bring more stuff into the house, other things have to go. And so it kind of goes down to the concept of like consumption, where depending on how much you're taking in, how much you're consuming, just like food, our stomachs are only a certain size, and there's a max, right? So in our day-to-day life, we only have a certain amount of energy, and it's very important to know, or to start to notice what you're allowing in. So with this shift from let's say Yontif, from holiday season to back to into our schedule, back into winter, into consistency, it's really, or when you're around people that you're not always with, it really gives you this sense of clarity of maybe your priorities, the things you're proud of within yourself, like the things you've worked on, and the parts of yourself that you'd like to work on more. Personally, for myself, I'd love to have more of a positive attitude and not be so critical, not of myself and not of others. So that is one thing I came out of all of it with. So I'm sure that every single one of you have come out with something. But it's a great place to notice because of the difference, and it's clear in that moment. At the same time, it is that clear when the world goes through a challenge, or we are challenged in a certain way and we are forced to choose. It becomes very, very clear to us what our priorities are. And when, even as a Jewish people, we are challenged and there is a genuine struggle there, it's good to ask yourself, like, what are your priorities? Like, what are the things that really matter to you? And this came up in a couple conversations that I've had with some people. So in this time in itself, it's also really, really great to tap into that. In this time as well, we're going from the end of, Sefer Dvarim to the beginning of Bereshis in this transition of these next few weeks. So we're going from a place where we're finishing the whole book, right? All Chamishi Chomshei Torah, and going back to Bereshis, which is, we're going back to the beginning, where it starts in darkness and then there's light that's created there. So there's a new sense of light that every single one of us can build within this new space. So as you go into this new year, it's important to ask yourself, what is it that you would like to work on? What is it that matters to you? What is it that, when times like this show up, when there's more pressure and stress, when time is expedited, right? Where do we stand? How do we stand? What are our values? So we're kind of put in that position, and we're forced to make choices that on a day-to-day basis we might not have to think about. There's certain things we might not have to think about. So that's really, really important to take into account. I always say take notes, because if you take some of these notes, you'll have them, because naturally as humans, we forget things. We feel things and then we forget things. Things go back to normal and we're like, oh, everything's okay. And sometimes it's not, like, if we want to get to the goals, and we have to have those a clear understanding of where we're going and what we're doing. So it's really important to know that. Another thing that came up in this time, in this experience, was that, like, in life, like, people were saying, like, this is, it's really scary, there's a lot going on. But if you think about, it's hard. If you think about life, when you have clarity about your journey, when you have clarity about, and you're confident in the things you're doing, and you understand why you're doing them, and your nefesh is aligned, right? That spirit space is aligned with the soul and the body, and you feel that one unit, you understand that life is hard. Life is hard no matter where you are in life, it's hard. We each pick our own hard. So we choose where in life things might be difficult for us. But we're willing to go through them because we have confidence in the journey that we're going to take. So we choose our hard, as in any path we take is difficult, even though it might look like an illusion that some people might have it easier. But when we really understand our value, it really changes our perspective on the effort that gets put into the journey itself. So there's that thing of siyata dishmaya, of the things that are out of our control, And then there are the things that are in our control. And as we move into this space, it really creates a space where we know that there's more that's not in our control than is. But the one thing that is in control is our temperament, our relationship with the nefesh, and our relationship with Hashem in that space. So with that being said, when we're doing the things we're passionate about and we don't prolong them, like a lot of us will say, I can only love myself if I'm X, Y, and Z. I can only value myself if I have money, or if I have friends, or if I'm smart. If we wait for those components to come around to love ourselves or have the compassion or be able to do the good things, right? Even being able to reach out to other people or educate ourselves or share or give of ourselves. A lot of times we're like, but I'm not good enough, or I might not have what it takes, say. But like when it's expedited, then we can really feel like, okay, let me step up to the plate and do the things I want to do and believe I need to do. Opinions don't matter. The social aspect doesn't matter. We go to that gut feeling and that intuition of our heart's calling and our most sacred calling, and we can go out there and reach out and do it. A great example of this is the concept of like having children or believing in a project. As a mother, usually we are the only ones that believe in our children 100%. Day in, day out, we send our kids into the world and people don't believe in them. And people will complain. I'm sorry about the helicopters out there. We'll try to work through it. So, and then the same with a project, even with a business, people won't believe in it. They'll have different ideas. But when we're completely aligned with our vision, we are able to see it through. So as you move through this time and you move through this experience, just ask yourself, do you feel aligned with your vision? Do you feel aligned with yourself? Where can you expedite that space where if you didn't have to wait to deserve certain things, if you can challenge yourself to explore them now, if there was a project you wanted to take on or something you wanted to learn, or just loving yourself a little bit more today, that power of entering that space of voracious also with the new things, we have those seeds of newness where you can feel that inspiration and go into that space and really believe. Because when you're completely aligned with yourself in that practice, you will see that you're the only one that has the concrete vision of how you need to be loved or how that project needs to be nurtured. If it's a person, if it's a project, you're the only one that has that concrete vision of how that can happen. So lean into the confidence of that and know that in life things are difficult, but it's getting past that difficulty and knowing that the emunah, the belief and the trust in the little things, right? Just the little pieces of the project is the thing that gets you through. And that's kind of the misconception. A lot of times people they'll be like, they'll always be looking at the bigger picture and focusing on the little things, creating quality in the little things that you do can make the difference between you being able to complete something or live in the fear. So thanks again for joining me today. I'm happy to be back, and hopefully we'll do a couple more of these next week. Have a beautiful Shabbos, Lachtige Shabbos, and be safe.